Saturday. And we have one of these or two of these pretty much every year. You can almost call it almost upset Saturday, right? Georgia almost got upset at Auburn, but survived. USC almost got upset at Colorado, but survived. Notre Dame almost got upset at Duke, but survived. And so because there were no major upsets, where I want to start instead is beautiful Lexington, Kentucky, where I thought we got one of the most definitive results of Saturday. There, the Kentucky Wildcats came in as a 1-point favorite in the DraftKings Sportsbook. I will be blunt. I did pick Kentucky to win this game. I think on Friday's show, I said something like 27-17 or something like that. What I did not expect was a total butt kicking for the ages as Kentucky beats Florida 33-14. It wasn't that close. Kentucky better in essentially every way a football team can be. And in what has become essentially an annual tradition here on the Aaron Torres pod, I got to ask, as good as Mark Stoops is he still underrated nationally? Because, folks, I think he is. And what's interesting about this game, listen, I have done the Mark Stoops is underrated thing before, but it's always been kind of that feel-good, uplifting, surprising, upset type moment that we've talked about it. What was interesting about this one is a couple things. One, Kentucky was favored. It was only by a point at home. Didn't think it was enough. But two, this is a series that Kentucky has actually kind of dominated, even coming into Saturday. If you know the history, you know that Kentucky went forever without beating Florida. They said it on the broadcast. It was the longest single win streak one school had over another in, I believe it was FBS football. But over the last 5 years, Kentucky has swung this the other way. 2018, they go down and win at the Swamp. 2018, they go down and win at the Swamp. 2021, they win at home at Commonwealth Stadium, Kroger Field, whatever you want to call it. And then, of course, 2022, last year, they win in the Swamp again. And so it's not as though this is some stunning upset, and that's not how I want to frame it, because that's not it at all. Kentucky has been the better team in this series, and Kentucky, again, came in as a favorite. But I do think what stood out about this game, what made this one different, there was nothing fluky about it, no feel good, oh my goodness, here come the Kentucky. No, it was just a butt kicking of epic proportions, okay? I think the win a few years ago in 2018 at the Swamp, that was about history. That was about breaking history and breaking a streak. 2021 was about doing it in front of your home fans. Last year was about proving you could do it again. This year specifically in 2023, it was about simply proving that you have the better football program. And that's exactly what Kentucky did on Saturday. Listen, the reason I picked Kentucky, I said to myself last week, I said, I believe that Kentucky, they got more dudes that look like they should be playing at Florida than Florida does. And Florida kind of plays the way that Kentucky did on the way up under Mark Stoops, right? We all remember those games. We all remember those teams, low scoring, physical, try to keep the ball away from the other team. That's who Florida has become. And meanwhile, the Kentucky Wildcats, I said coming in, I said, Dane Key, he could play anywhere in college football. Berrien Brown could play anywhere in college football. Ray Davis could play anywhere in college football. Kentucky's the one with those dudes. So that was my thought process on Thursday, Friday. Saturday was not only about that being right, but it was about Kentucky simply being better at every single spot on the field. First of all, the stats are mind-boggling, and we know what they are. Ray Davis, the running back, the transfer from Vanderbilt, a historic day. A historic day as Kentucky as a team rushed for 329 yards against the Florida Gators. 329 yards, 9 yards per carry in that game. Ray Davis obviously got all the accolades, but he even said it himself. He said, I didn't set any records today. I didn't go for history today. The big blue wall, my offensive line did. And that was what was so surreal about this game. Kentucky was the better team at essentially every spot on the field. Now, you could argue Graham Mertz, the quarterback, maybe outplayed Devin Leary, but that was because Graham Mertz had to. That was because Devin Leary could hand off the ball and his running backs were getting 9 yards per carry in that game. Kentucky was better at the running back position. They have the better wide receivers. They have the better offensive line. They have the better defensive line. They have the better secondary. It was a butt kicking, and it was surreal to see a Kentucky team have better players everywhere on the field than the Florida Gators. And because of it, that is why, let me say once again, Mark Stoops is spoken about in the highest regards across college football. A guy that I think is respected by every fan base in the SEC. Yet I also still think somehow, some way, he is underrated on a national scale. And the reason is because, listen, you don't need me to tell you the history, but what he has done with this program is absolutely unbelievable, right? And I don't mean to tear down what Kentucky was before he got there, but it's one thing to be Brian Kelly and to be, get an LSU program 2-3 years after they win a national championship. Even Florida, I mean, Billy Napier inherited a program that has been historically great, won multiple national championships under multiple head coaches, and they were 2 years removed for playing for the SEC title. Mark Stoops in 13, 14, he took over, and this isn't exaggeration. He took over the worst team in the SEC. Remember, when he got there, James Franklin was still at Vanderbilt. They were winning 9 games. Steve Spurrier was still at South Carolina. They were a top 10 team. And Mark Stoops, and I know Kentucky fans know this, and I know it's old news at this point, but he has built them up and up and up from 2 wins to 5 wins to 7 wins to being happy to go to bowl games to 10-win seasons. But what stood out on Saturday was this has arrived as an elite program, okay? There is no moral victories about getting to a bowl game. There is no moral victories about beating Florida. There is no moral victories about whatever. That is a team that I believe you put them on the field with just about anybody, they can play with just about anybody. Now, listen, they go to Georgia this weekend. That is the ultimate test. And I get Georgia is a 17-point favorite, and I get as great as you were against Florida, you're going to have the toughest test of your season against the number 1 team in the country and the 2-time defending champion. But listen, I watch a lot of college football, blessed to do what I do. And I'm here to tell you that team that I saw on Saturday, the size, the speed, the physicality, the aggressiveness, defensive front, secondary, wide receivers, that team can play with just about anybody in the country. So I'm not going to sit here on a Monday morning right after you just, destroyed the Florida Gators and say they're going to Georgia and winning that game. That's not what it's about. It's about appreciating these moments. It's appreciating how far this program has come. And it's about appreciating you just kicked the Florida Gators' butts, and absolutely nobody is surprised about it. So we'll talk about Kentucky, Georgia on the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday show. But today is just about enjoying this moment. Congrats, Kentucky fans. You deserve it. And Mark Stoops, every bit of praise that he gets, he absolutely deserves as well. All right, I do want to switch gears, and I do want to talk about the Florida side of things. And before I get into Florida, let me be clear here. I'm going to be a little bit critical of Florida here over the next couple minutes. And if you're a Kentucky fan who just enjoyed the crap out of me talking about how much fun it was to watch Kentucky dominate Florida, I'm going to be critical of Florida, and I want you to know it is in no way, shape, or form an indictment of what Kentucky did. I can be critical of Florida without it taking away from what Kentucky did and how dominant Kentucky was. And so if you're a Kentucky fan, enjoy the moment. You were the significantly better team on Saturday at home against the Florida Gators.